Fascinating story out of the New York Times, also a little bit from the Daily Beast in this reporting as well. It is about how John Kelly, the chief of staff for Donald Trump, is trying to corral him. Now, I made a prediction earlier that John Kelly would not last, just as everybody in the mainstream media was gushing about how his chin was so square, his jaw so solid, hence all of this is going to work. Well, the news out now is actually mixed. Some of it did work. So credit where credit is due, I'll get to that. And he has done some great things. And at the same time, Trump is chafing because he's a child. These are my favorite stories. So without further ado, let's go to Glenn Thrush and Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. President Trump was in an especially ornery mood, that sounds like him, after staff members gently suggested he refrain from injecting politics into day-to-day issues of governing after last month's raucous rally in Arizona, and he responded by lashing out at the most senior aide in his presence. It happened to be his new chief of staff, John F. Kelly. Okay, a little told you here, he's a man-child. Okay, it's a general, he's really well respected, he's really orderly. That's not gonna stop the man-child from getting upset and go, where's my milk and cookies? Why can't I talk about politics in the middle of a tragedy? So, Mr. Kelly, the former Marine general brought in 5 weeks ago as a successor to Reince Priebus, reacted calmly, but he later told other White House staff members that he had never been spoken to like that during 35 years of serving his country. In the future, he said he would not abide such treatment, according to 3 people familiar with the exchange. Well, okay, my prediction is he will abide it because people like power too much. On the other hand, Trump will not abide it. We asked you this poll question in an earlier segment that we did about John Kelly a couple of weeks ago, and you guys also thought the same thing, that there was about according to you guys, about a 90% chance that at some point Trump will fire Kelly. But we'll see how that goes. So far, so good, and I'm not sure I want him to be fired. In fact, that's a poll question I'm gonna ask you later. They explain, while Mr. Kelly has quickly brought some order to a disorganized and demoralized staff, he is fully aware of the president's volcanic resentment about being managed, according to a dozen people close to Mr. Trump, and has treated gingerly through the minefield of Mr. Trump's psyche. Indeed, the minefield of Mr. Trump's psyche. Look, they're not just talking to 1 or 2 people here. They've talked to a dozen people inside the White House. And this is the same reaction we got when we had a whole different cast of characters in the White House. Everybody says the same thing because it's true. Donald Trump has a very thin skin. He doesn't like to be told what to do. He has temper tantrums. Everything, look, I don't even want to, again, I feel like I'm belittling kids too much, but it's what a moody kid, let's just call it that way, does, right? So, yeah, you have to say it. Now, Mr. Trump, you're wonderful and great and gracious and wonderful. But can I just say, maybe in the middle of doing Hurricane Harvey, empathizing, you shouldn't talk about your crowd size. How dare you? Where's my milk and cookies? This is the man-child in charge of the country. God help us all. The president has still bridled at what he perceives as being told what to do. It's a very, very common theme. Look, guys, if people are trying to manipulate you, that's annoying. And there are instances when people play politics inside of a company and obviously inside the government. And you can sniff that out and put an end to it. That's perfectly fair and a good thing, a positive thing. But when someone earnestly tells you, hey, here's my honest advice about what I think you should do, that would be helpful to you, to our party, to our policy priorities, to the country. You can't go, hey, don't tell me what to do. Well, it depends, dude. Do they have your best interest in mind? Don't they? Do they have the country's best interest in mind? And don't they? Are they right or are they wrong? You can't just, every time somebody gives you advice, you can't flip out and go nuclear like an idiot. Well, that would require you not to be an idiot, and that's where we run into the problem. All right, so more on this front, and here comes the turn. Like every other new sheriff in town, Mr. Trump has hired to turn things around at the White House or in his presidential campaign. Mr. Kelly has gradually diminished in his appeal to his restless boss. So, and the reason it goes like this is that first he hires someone like Paul Manafort, who was his former campaign manager, and the guy looks slick and he's got a nice suit and he's been a lobbyist for a long time and he thinks, and he worked on a lot of presidential campaigns. He's like, okay, good, this is a successful person, I like this guy. And then Manafort says, hey, can you stop being such a schmuck? But of course, in very political terms, says to not offend him. Mr. Trump, you are so brilliant, but could you please do this instead of that? And he's like, how dare you? And now in John Kelly's case, general, he looks up to the generals. That's why he's got Jim Mattis as defense secretary. He's got McMaster at National Security Council, and he's got Kelly as his chief of staff. General's successful, rich people good, general's good. Everyone else sucks, I don't want him in my government. But after a while, he realizes, this is a person who's smart and trying to give me good advice. Therefore, I hate him. So more details. The question now is how long Mr. Kelly will stay with estimates ranging from a month to a year at most. How many times can I say told you? All right, but it hasn't happened yet, so let's see how it goes. Mr. Trump, who has said that he has surrounded himself with former military men from, quote, central casting, respects Mr. Kelly, aide said. But again, just like I said, says he says that that's a quote from Trump. These generals look like they're from central casting. That would be great for a reality show. For actually running the country, I mean, we're lucky it looks like Kelly is actually organized. But central casting shouldn't have anything to do with it. How they look shouldn't have anything to do with it, but Trump has said this on dozens of occasions. He doesn't like people who don't look like they should have the role. Even though Mitt Romney had gone after him very aggressively during the campaign, he still considered him for Secretary of State, and it wasn't a fake consideration, according to inside sources, because they said Trump thought he looked like a Secretary of State. All right, anyway. So we got lucky that Kelly actually does fit the role that he was cast for. It appears, because you're going to see some good news in a second. Okay, the president for his part has marveled at the installation of management controls that would have been considered routine in any other White House. He says, quote, I now have time to think, a surprised Mr. Trump has told one of his senior aides repeatedly over the last few weeks. Yeah, if idiots and madmen like Steve Bannon and Omarosa, as you're gonna see in a second, all these people don't just burst into your room and go, I got a great idea, let's hate these people, right? You might actually, and you do things in an orderly way, you might have time in your schedule to think. Now, once again, God help us on what he's thinking. I don't know that we want Trump thinking a lot, and that would be a fascinating problem. I'd love to sit in the room and say, oh. Anybody got pictures? Anybody want to turn on Fox? Right? But okay, good, order is good. Mr. Kelly cannot stop Mr. Trump from binge watching Fox, of course, from binge watching Fox News, which aides describe as the president's primary source of information gathering. For the third time, God help us all. I mean, at a minimum, even if you're on that side, you've got to be cognizant that Fox News is doing perspective reporting. And again, I know he's not cognizant of this, and even if he was, he wouldn't care. Their so-called reporting is not even perspective reporting. We've reported 100 times about internal memos from Fox News where management tells the anchors what to say based on political grounds. Hey, pretend Hamas is celebrating democratic victories. Pretend this is happening, pretend that is happening. But even if you get past that, he was looking at Fox and Friends and Hand, these are all opinion shows. And he sees it and he's like, oh yeah, it was a fact. Steve Doocy said it, how could it be wrong? Oh, okay. So now, the really good news about John Kelly is that he has kept most of the crazies out. So let's give you details on that. Now, Mr. Kelly, this is still the New York Times. Now, Mr. Kelly has thinned out his package of printouts so much that Mr. Trump plaintively asked a friend recently where the Daily Caller and Breitbart were. Mr. Kelly has told his staff time and time again that his goal is to rationalize the chaos that has engulfed the management of the West Wing. Managing Mr. Trump is beyond his or anyone else's powers, he has said repeatedly. In other words, throwing his hand up going, I'm trying, brother. Okay, now if you don't know, the envelope he used to get, usually prepared by Steve Bannon acolytes, would be filled with right-wing propaganda from sites like Breitbart. Of course, that's the one that Steve Bannon used to run and now runs again. And so they'd put that in front of him like, oh my God, immigrants are dirty and terrible and you should ban them all. And he'd be like, I found a fact. It says here on Breitbart that immigrants are terrible, we should ban them, right? But think about what a child he is, that he doesn't even know they were playing that game and that they were putting that folder in front of him. And now that somebody else is playing a different game and putting a folder that doesn't have those, he's genuinely asking like, hey, what happened to Breitbart and Daily Caller? Are they not in the news anymore? No, you schmuck. Ironically, what's happening is the thing that you're worried about, which is that they're playing you. They were playing you before to be crazy. Now Kelly's playing you to be sane. Thank God for that. But either way, the fact that you can't see that is so sad. If I was the president and somebody keeps putting opinion pieces in front of me with a certain agenda, I'd be like, yeah, that's all good and fine. I get it. That's like your opinion, man. But what's the actual news of today? And of course, Trump is not savvy enough to understand any of that. Jesus, man, his IQ is, I don't know that it's made the double digits. This guy is really, really dumb. Okay, so now more good news. Okay, so you got some of the extreme right-wing propaganda off the president's desk. That's good. And then you got Omarosa Manigault. Believe it or not, she is in the White House. Yes, she's the reality show star. On the other hand, so is Trump. So the stories, this is now the Daily Beast. The stories Manigault would present to Trump, often on a phone or printed out, would often enrage the president and resulted in him spending at least the rest of the day fuming about it. For example, one White House source noted that Manigault was one of the people who would bring to President Trump's attention online articles concerning MSNBC hosts and former Trump pals Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, slagging him and his administration. So, and that's what caused Trump to go nuts and say that Mika was bleeding from the face, which got him into more trouble. Omarosa's whole point in the reality shows that she was in was to cause trouble and chaos. That's why she was an interesting character on TV. She would love to pit people against each other and create drama. If you're running a reality show, perfect. She's exactly the kind of character that you would cast. If you're running a White House and she's doing it to the president, that's a profoundly bad idea. And then he's so stupid he doesn't realize it. He's like, oh my God, is somebody saying something bad about me? Oh, Omarosa, thank you for creating this drama. Oh yeah. So Kelly's like, no, you're gone. No, you're banned. You're not. If you're going to go into the office, you have to ask my permission. And she's, oh my God, she's talking to a camera as we speak. You know, like the shots that they do in a room by herself. I can't believe General Kelly did this to me. He is so outrageous. Okay, now one more on Omarosa. Unnamed Trump administration source says, when General Kelly is talking about clamping down on access to the Oval, she's patient zero. So she's the one causing the most amount of problems. Again, given her track record on TV, that's not surprising. Now, another guy with a lot of problems is Sheriff Clark. He's the guy who recently quit in Milwaukee. And there I have great news on behalf of John Kelly. Sheriff David A. Clark just lost out on yet another Trump administration job, and he has the president's chief of staff to thank. We actually all have the president's chief of staff to thank on that. Sheriff Clark is a lunatic. 4 sources working in and close to the Trump White House said his failure to land a gig in the West Wing or the Department of Homeland Security, where Clark unsuccessfully sought a job earlier this year, was in large part the result of opposition from White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. Kelly led the Department of Homeland Security until late July. At Department of Homeland Security, Kelly had personally shot down an idea supported by some officials in the Trump White House to have immigration ultra-hardliner Chris Kobach as a Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. So these are all really good news. Now look, one of the reasons that Kelly said no to Sheriff Clark was because several people have died in his prisons, including a guy who died of thirst, which is unbelievable in America, including a child who died during childbirth because they wouldn't bring any medical professionals to help the mother. I mean, really barbaric stuff. But to give you a sense of what a lunatic Sheriff Clark is, he believes that Black Lives Matter and ISIS are working together to bring down the country. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And Kelly's like, oh, that's good. Now, of course, Donald Trump Jr. loves him, takes pictures with him, puts it on Twitter. All these cast of characters are on Trump are like, oh, Sheriff Clark. And Kelly's like, oh yeah, look. And none of these guys are remotely liberal, okay? Including Kelly. Kelly's hard right-wing guy. I mean, when he was in the Department of Homeland Security, he was all on board for the Muslim ban. He wanted to, he's on board for building the wall. Don't get it mixed up, okay? This guy's no one's moderate. He's just not a lunatic. So when a guy walks in, he's like, I got a great idea. I want to work at the Department of Homeland Security. And he's like, okay, I'm all ears. What do you got? All right, what is it? I think ISIS and Black Lives Matter are working. Okay, good. Get the fuck out. Okay, get. Hurry up, you're getting out of here. And Chris Kobach, this guy's, as hardliner as it comes. And And I was wondering why he was not in government, because he sounds exactly like Trump kind of person, and it turns out Kelly had blocked it. So he just wants to be more reasonable in the right-wing path that they are going and more sane. So it's going to come to our question in a second, but one last quote for you guys now, back to the New York Times. But one associate who spoke to Mr. Kelly last month said the former commander had remarked that his current assignment was by far the hardest job he had ever had. And that includes being a Marine grunt and everything else that he's done in his life. Of course, how do you control an uncontrollable man-child? So the question I pose to you guys is, should John Kelly resign in protest or stay and keep Trump in check? TYTnetwork.com/chief of staff. Now look, there's two reasons why you should say resign in protest. One is, well, he's brought some level of competence to the Trump White House, and we don't want them to get the Muslim ban passed or the wall built or giant tax cuts for the rich. So maybe John Kelly is not such a great thing in terms of policy. The second reason is, well, look, anybody with a conscience should resign in protest from Trump administration, especially after what he did after Charlottesville. On the other hand, the man-child could get angry and nuke North Korea or start a war that kills millions of people. Not an easy question. So TYTnetwork.com/chief of staff. Curious to hear what you think. He has kept more of the crazies out. He has brought order to the Trump White House for now. Likely it won't last, because as Scaramucci, another guy that Kelly basically fired, famously said, the fish rots from the head down. And that fish is Donald Trump, and it smells. Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.